Salam rahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Want to leave. I
Huh?
came early. 7:15.
Oh,
Hey, don't you have like a website? Not Instagram, like a website.
no.
Can I text you?
Yeah.
Or live?
Yeah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. This is class number 6 and we're on number 7 as far as the Al-Adab al-Ashra, the 10 manners, if we could translate it like that, but Sheikh Salih al-Husaymi hafidhahullah. So we're on number 7, and again, just as a reminder, the way the book is written, it's like a beginner's level. So all of the dalil is not mentioned, but the dalil is not hard to follow because most of these issues are issues that are famous. So like we've been doing, like we're going to do today, once we read through the text, all we're going to do is look up the hadith. Everybody can find a hadith on Google. And I'm saying that on purpose because not that Google can be used, right? Of course, it's not the only source, but for what we're doing, is the point is to show everybody this is not hidden information. This information is fairly famous. Just because it's new to me, information that's new to me, doesn't mean it's not famous information. All right, it just might be new to me, based on my knowledge. So this section, in the author, Hafidhullah, he says, "As-sabi'u رد التثاؤب ما استطعت وأمسك بيدك على فيك ولا تقل And this section has to do with yawning, which proves Islam covers everything. We have a way we're supposed to behave when it comes to all aspects throughout the whole day and night. If we're, as Muslims, if we're not practicing the Islamic etiquette and adab, that's our problem. That doesn't mean Islam didn't consider it. That doesn't mean we don't have anything from guidance in that chapter. That just may mean maybe I don't know it, or maybe I'm just not practicing that portion of the deen. So this section, which is fairly short, it's about yawning. And it says, number 7, from adab, from good manners, is ruddat tatha'ub, is to, as much as you're possible, to hold back your yawn as much as you can. Right? Now before we even go any further, right? We just talking about generally. When it comes to yawning, is there anything I'm not talking about the hadith. I'm just saying in general, because we didn't mention any hadith yet. Just what we know. Is there anything, in your opinion, when it comes to yawning, that's out of line?
Talking to somebody and it's like kind of think like somebody around like think like, well, in my mind, I'm talking to somebody, I'm having a conversation when they start yawning, it's kind of like, well, I'm boring you.
Like, you're good. You talking to somebody, right? Y'all having a conversation, they yawn in your face. You assume I'm boring you, right? Even though yawning, right, is human, it's nature, it's normal. There's nothing wrong with yawning. We're not saying that Muslims are not allowed to yawn. That's not the issue. The issue is when we yawn, how do we carry ourselves even when we're yawning? Because we have a way to carry ourselves as Muslims when we sneezing, right? We also have a way to carry ourselves as Muslims when we yawning. So now, we're going to yawn because we're human beings, right? But when we yawn, like he said, it's possible somebody might think, what, am I boring you? Or what else you might think about the person? Maybe they tired. They just tired. So if somebody yawns, right? You might assume they tired. All right, what else? Anything having to do with yawning before we even get to the hadith? Any problems?
Well, depending on if they
Not covering your mouth?
make that loud noise, they get extra.
If they make a loud noise, that's extra. All right. He said covering your mouth. That people don't cover their mouth. You talking to a person, they just yawn in your face. Don't cover their mouth. They don't turn away. That ain't cool. No. Or they make the law. If they make, all right, if a person make a loud noise, then say la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Before we get to the hadith, we talking about just now, normal. You walking around, you talking to somebody, they yawn in your face. Y'all having a conversation. They yawn in your face, they make a loud noise. How we feel about that? I'm serious, huh? Why? Because remember in the beginning of the book, he says some of the adab that we talking about is from the urf, is from the culture of the people. Even though this one here does have is statements of the Prophet ﷺ concerning what to do when you yawn and stuff like that. But even if we don't get to, even not getting to the hadith, just amongst us, if somebody yawns in your face and don't cover your mouth, in general, we have a problem with that, right? And if we have a problem with it, I'm not saying we as Muslims, I'm saying we as a culture of people. So even a non-Muslim is going to have a problem with that, right? Tayyib. If somebody's loud and they yawn, same thing. Even a non-Muslim is going to have a problem with that. So now, if we just start right there, it's from good manners, even with a non-Muslim, that if you're going to yawn, there's certain things you should do when you yawn, right? The Muslim is supposed to always be on the best side of every situation. So if yawning in our culture is not acceptable to be loud, right? It's not acceptable to be not covering your mouth. That's looked at like, yo, you ain't cover your mouth. You yawn in my face, you ain't, right? I'm talking, you just yawn while in the middle. If all that's not acceptable in the culture, without dalil, we should be implementing the best part of the culture as long as it's not going against the Quran and the Sunnah. Meaning, if there was a hadith that said, when you yawn, make sure you're loud, for example, right? And then the people where we from, they say, no, don't be loud when you yawn. We're going to say, no, the hadith says be loud, so we're going to do it that. Everybody with me? But that's not what's going on. What's going on is even right now, with no hadith or anything, right now amongst our people, right? Yawning loud is like, come on, you all right? Right? That's looked at it like, dang, right? Not covering your mouth. That's looked at some type of way. So in that case, we should still be practicing the better side of that issue, if that makes sense. Tayyib. This issue here is, the first thing says, and if you want to look at the hadith right now, all you got to do is type in hadith on yawning, and it's going to pop right up where he got this from. It says, number one, the first thing he says, that you should hold back the yawn as much as possible, right? Meaning, you have to yawn. It's not like you trying to get the yawn out. You trying to suppress it. You trying to keep it back. Are you going to yawn? Just so we clear. We human, y'all. We yawn. We not. Islam doesn't say you can't yawn. But when we yawn, what we supposed to do? Scream out, stretch in front of a person while they having a conversation? No, it's a certain way. Brothers and sisters. It's not just for the men. For the Muslim. It's a certain thing we're supposed to do. So the first thing he says is to hold back as much as possible the yawn. Anybody want to pull up the hadith? Just somebody type in hadith on yawning so that everybody could look at it. Because the first thing we're talking about is trying to hold it back as much as possible. Even though, of course, the air is going to come out. You might be tired. Whatever the case may be, you're going to yawn. But what you do, just let it go? Or what you do, no, we're supposed to try to suppress it as much as possible. Tayyib. He says, number two, وَأَمْسِكْ بِيَدِكْ عَلَى فِيكْ. He says that you should take your hand and cover your mouth when you're yawning. You should take your hand and cover your mouth when you're yawning, right? Which is, even without a hadith, that's respectable. In the culture we from, the people we like, that's respectable. At least he covered his mouth. She covered her mouth. We having a conversation. You yawn in my face. I can see all you got dental work going on and caps and all that. You know what I'm saying? You got it? Anybody got it? Hold on. It says, hold on, who's the hadith narrated by? Say it again. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. طيب, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. It says what the Prophet ﷺ said when one. طيب, it's more than one hadith. When it says when one yawns, he should put his hand over his mouth. The Shaykh in this, the way he wrote it, he didn't mention a hadith. He just says that adab, from adab as a Muslim, is you should cover your mouth with your hand. Based on the hadith, and there's more than one hadith. طيب. Now the question is, what does that look like? How you cover your mouth? How? Cover your mouth how? What's my options of covering my mouth? Or I can go like this, or with your hand, not with your elbow. Either I can go like this or like this, right? If I do this, that's not my hand. Sa, right? طيب, which one is more appropriate? To cover with the inside of my hand or the outside? This is the outside, and this is the inside. Just so this, they call this the batin, the kef, or the inside. The outside. The outside. طيب. Salam alaykum. طيب, that's the next discussion he has. He says, number one, of course we know the hadith says covering the mouth. It doesn't say how though. The hadith that he read just doesn't say how to cover your mouth. It meaning, I don't know that the hadith says the inside or the outside. So now he says, it depends on the situation. Oh, I'm sorry. Before we get there, we got another option when covering the mouth with the hand. We saying the inside of the hand, right? Or the outside of the hand. And what's the next option? No, we definitely gonna do it, inshallah. It's from edib to cover the mouth with the hand when you yawn. Inside, outside, or no, not a fist. Fist, no. Even though we do that, fist. Remember, y'all, the hadith says cover with the hand. All right. I'm not saying the fist is not the hand. Right hand, you cover them out with your right hand or your left hand? The right hand? Tayyib. Anybody else? The left? If you sneeze, we're not talking about sneezing now. Or you think it would be the same? Tayyib. So those are the two issues. When we cover our mouths, should we use the right hand or the left hand? Should we use the inside of the hand or the outside of the hand? So he says, number one, when it comes to the hands, you should use what is appropriate for every situation, based on you, based on the individual. So he says, فَإِنْ كَانَ الْفَمُ مُطَيِّبًا لَيْسَتْ فِيهِ رَائِحَةٌ كَرِيهَةٌ. Right? He said, if, as regarding your mouth, right? In basic terms, if your mouth doesn't have a foul smell, if your breath doesn't stink, if your breath doesn't stink, you might have just had a Tic Tac, you might have had some gum, you might just brush your teeth, you might have had mouthwash, right? He says if that's the case, right, then the person should use which hand? Huh? What's the left usually for? Let's get there first. Cleaning. The left is usually for cleaning, for istinja. طيب. The mouth is clean already. So what hand should I use? The right. So you should use the right in that case, right? He says, وَإِنْ كَانَ يَخْرُجْ مِنْهُ لِعِلَّةٍ. He said, but if it's the opposite, you might have just ate some food, it might have some type of smell to it, right? He says, if that's the case, then the person should use their left hand. So that's going to depend. Now we think all this, y'all, that means you actually, you know how fast you yawn, right? Yawns come up just like that, you know. A Muslim trying to do everything according to the book and the sunnah, the Prophet say something. You got to be thinking all that, right? That means it has to be on your mind. I just ate this food. If I yawn, I'm gonna use my left hand. Not to say if you just had some food and it had garlic in it. Not to say you couldn't use your right. Right? You can use the left or the right. He's saying, what's better though? This is an issue of not what you can do. What's better to do at this point? Not what you can do. You can use the right or the left. But what's better? He's saying it's better to use the right hand if the mouth doesn't have any foul odor to it. And if it does have some type of odor, then you should use the left hand. That's what he's saying. That's why he says, ma yunasib al-hal, depending on the situation. Because some people are going to say, right? Some people are going to say, well, when you sneeze, you use your left hand, so you should probably use your left for that. Right? And make it like that. But we're going to say, it all depends. Right? When I sneeze in general, I could be kind of like spitting into my hand. Right? Which means if I sneeze into my right hand, then I go shake somebody's hand, that's a problem. Right? When you yawn, generally you're not, it's air. Not even liquid, it's air. طيب. So that's the first issue. So the right, do I use the right or left when I cover my mouth when I yawn? It depends. What we do, and the ulama do this a lot of things are not black and white like we would want them to be. If it's black and white, if everything is black and white, that makes it a lot more what? Huh? Easier. Choose A or B. Right? It's a lot of things that's not black and white. So you might ask a question and say, it depends. Oh man, that's clear. Everything clear. Everything clear. If it's clear, why is all this detail in all these books? It depends. Some of them say this, some say that. They don't all agree. If everything was one statement, that means everybody agrees on that already. We're not even having that conversation. Right? So after that, he says the next issue is not the right or the left hand, but the inside of the hand or the outside of the hand. So he says was more complete in that issue. And they call it the vahir. And not that they said it's better to use better. What's better mean? It's not obligatory. It's preferred. Meaning, what if I use the inside of my hand? Nothing wrong with it. And I'm making sure we understand because we got to be clear about words. If a scholar says al-afdal, the better thing to do is this, that doesn't mean you can't do it the other way. Because we're going to say, well, the Sheikh said you got to do it, it's better to do it like this. Okay. Afdal meaning we could do it it's two ways to do it. It's better to do it this way. Maybe it's easier for you to do it the way that he's saying, and it's a little bit more difficult for the next person. Right? So, like he said, it's not obligatory to use that side, but it's better. And he's going to give the reasoning why. He says, so it's better to use the outside of the hand, not the inside. Right? What's the problem? What's the problem with using the inside of your hand when you yawn? What could be a possible, not problem, but a possible issue? Not necessarily a problem. What could be a possible issue if I yawn in my right hand? Germs is right hand or left hand. But let's just say germs. All right, what's the problem with germs?
You use your right hand to shake hands.
I use my right hand to shake hands. So let's just say I had a foul odor. I had some garlic. I had some whatever. I yawn in my right hand. Right? Is it permissible? Is it permissible in Islam to yawn and cover your mouth with your right hand? Yes. Is that the preferred thing to do if my mouth has an odor to it, like a bad odor? No. But I did. Cool. I yawned in my right hand. Now what? My hand smells like possibly garlic, especially if you had some of that garlic sauce. Right? Now what the issue gonna be? The issue's gonna be now when you go to shake a person's hand. Right? Now you're giving off a bad smell. Not that it's saying it's haram to eat garlic. Not that it's saying you can't. No, all we're saying is from edib. Islam puts us in the best situations possible all the time. So we take all the precautions to always be on our best. Right? So he's saying that it's better if the mouth has a smell to use your left hand to cover your mouth. Right? Why? Because if you use your right hand, let's assume you had something, now you're going to be shaking people's hands. Now, say we all eating off the same plate. Right? Say we digging in the same plate eating. You got garlic sauce on your hand. Your hands smell like garlic. You digging in the food. Everybody understand? And he says the opposite. So it's better if that's the case to use the left. And the opposite is the same way. He said, and if there is a smell, you should use the left. right? You shouldn't use the right. You should use the left if your mouth has a smell. I hope that's clear. طيب, the last issue here, he says, وَلَا تَقُولْ, and it's three things here. The first thing he mentioned was that you should try to hold back the yawn. Even though we're human, we're going to yawn. But that doesn't mean we like trying to like see who can do the loudest yawn. Right? We're trying to hold it back. The second thing is cover the mouth, cover our mouths when we yawn. And the third thing is when we yawn, that we don't make a loud noise. In one hadith it says, ha, whatever noise we make. And this hadith says, we don't make a loud noise when we yawn. Is it possible, y'all? You leave right here, right now today, go home, sit down on the couch, yawn and make a loud noise? That's possible. We human. This is to serve as a reminder of what the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is when it comes to yawning. I missed it. So now you on your toes for the next time you yawn, because we might yawn, I make a noise, and somebody says, haram, you can't make no noise. All right? I'm not trying to make a noise, number one, but it's possible I make a noise. But we trying to restrain and hold all of that back. Why? What did the hadith say? Oh, I think I got it here too, just so it's clear. I don't want you to have to read the whole thing. Yes, there's many of them. One, it says yawning is from the shaitan. And if one of you yawns, he should hold back his yawn as much as possible. And if one of you yawns, and he shouldn't say, make that noise because the shaitan laughs at him, right? And there's a couple different hadith about that, yes. Only one hadith says while you're praying, but there's other hadith that talk about yawning and you're not praying. But there's a hadith, and like the last class, if you look up these, if you put in like, for example, this is called, what is this? Sunnah.com, right? It's like a book, all the hadith books on there. And if you type in yawning, hadith on yawning, it's going to bring up the whole chapter about yawning, right? And all you got to do is scroll through and you'll see where he pulled this from without mentioning all of the hadith in the chapter, okay? So the last one is that we don't make the sound when we make that yawn. So that means that we're trying to hold it back as much as possible. Clear? And even without the hadith, even before we even read the hadith about making the noise, just in general, that's not something that's really like, everybody looks at that like, you know, it's not something, as we say, praiseworthy. It's not something good to do. Everybody has a problem with that. If you're talking to somebody, they yawn and they make a loud noise, you might be talking to them, they yawn and the noise that they make is louder than what you're saying to them, right? And you looking like, yo. So on top of that, which is something that we already know amongst us, like sit down until I catch it. We have the statement of the Prophet ﷺ not to make that sound when we yawn. طيب. The next issue, as he says, حفظه الله الثامن. This is number 8 from the 10. He said, and then إذا انتهيت إلى المجلس فسلم واجلس حيث ينتهي المجلس ولا تجلس بين الشمس والظل ولا تفرق بين اثنين إلا بإذنهما ولا تقم أحدا من مجلسه وافسح لمن دخل واذكر الله فيه وأقله كفارته فتقول سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. This is the hadith about, if we could say right now, like, it's called majlis for sittings, when you go and you sit somewhere. So what do we call that? I can't remember, think of the word. You go somewhere, like we sitting here now, right? But everywhere you go might not necessarily be a class. Huh? Gatherings, Jade. When you go to gatherings, y'all gonna be sitting down. All right? How do we deal with that? It's a way we conduct ourselves when we go to gatherings and we taking seats, which proves Islam covers everything. Even when we go to different sittings and gatherings and we're gonna sit down, it's a way we enter the room. It's a way we enter the room, it's a way we sit down, where we sit, all of that is a proper way to do that according to Islam. So this comes under adab al-majlis, the manners when it comes to gatherings. sometimes it's translated as sittings. Majlis is literally is sittings. But we talking about gatherings. You go to gatherings and you sit down. So the first thing he says that, what's the first thing you should do when you go in the gathering? Jade, speak. More specific than speaking, give salams. Right? Now, the next issue is, just for us, we might go to a gathering and what? Everybody not Muslim. Or it's no Muslims in there. So what do we do there? Jade. What's the adab of our culture that's respectable when you come somewhere and it's a gathering, even if they're not Muslim? To do what? Smile and greet the room. That's good adab. To greet the room is good adab. Is it a hadith that says greet the room when there's non-Muslims in the room? The hadith that we talking about is when you come in, give salams. But from adab, okay, if there's no Muslims in the room, you're not giving the salams to them. So at least you could say what? Good morning. How's everybody? How you doing? Good afternoon. Right? That's from good adab. Right? Here we talking about, he says, number one, give the salam. What if there's Muslims in there and there's some Muslims that's not in there? Gives the salam. You can give a salam to the Muslims. There's Muslims in there. You can give a salam to the Muslims. Say, Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everybody. Or Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. Whatever you're going to say. Whatever. However we say it. Whatever the room requires. Because you can't, you can't go in every gathering and use some of the words we use with each other. Every place is not. Everything has a time and a place for it. Some place you can't, you can't do that everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Even, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? It's cool for us. I can't go everywhere saying, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to have to, you know what I mean, adapt to the situation. So whatever the situation may be, that we adapt to the situation. As long as our adapting does not do what? Go against the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet say something. As long as it doesn't go against the revelation, we're fine. We're not stuck to talk like the way the books are translated. We're not obligated to speak the way that the books of Islam are translated in that dialect. We have to speak in the language to make sure that the people we're talking to, especially talking about dawah, that people understand what we're talking about. And there's nothing saying that we have to speak the way the book is translated. But it does, if we're going to speak about something, we make sure that we know what we're talking about, none of that. It keeps the same meaning. So we go into a room, he says, number one, fasallim. If you come to a gathering, you get a salams. That's number one, right? We already know there's numerous ways of giving the salams. The best way, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. But if a person just says assalamu alaikum, that's enough, right? And then we say whatever, if there's other people that's in the room that's not Muslims, good afternoon, or you just say both, or whatever the case may be. Tayyib. He says, number two, wajlis haythu yantahi al-majlis. He said, you sit where the crowd of people has reached to. So let's I'm going to just use a number. You go into a room, they're not sitting on the floor like we do here. It's rows of chairs, right? You come in and you sit, for example, they done already filled up the first 3 rows. You sit where? They sit down for like that. You sit in the 4th row. That's where you came, you're late, number one. That's the benefit, as a brother said. That's the benefit of being late. Generally, y'all, what's the best spot in the room? The front. We've been trained and conditioned to sit far away, a lot of us. We've been trained to sit in the back of the room, sit the furthest away. That's right. Back of, you know what I'm saying? We've been trained like that. You don't want to sit up front. You might actually, you sitting up front, you might catch some heat for sitting in the front. All right, even though that's the best place to be for all the benefits of sitting in the front, right? You go sit and learn from the scholars of Islam. Nobody goes to the scholars, to the classes with scholars of Islam. Nobody goes there and intentionally sits at the back of the row. Everybody's trying to get all the way up front. Everybody's trying to get as close to the sheikh as possible. Why? Number one, you're going to be able to hear better. Right? There's no telling who's walking by. The further you are, the more distractions you got back there. Right? It's more likely that the sheikh is going to look you in the eye answer your question and deal with you than they are the people further back. So when you go to class with scholars of Islam or the medicine, you're trying to get up close as possible. So you try to get there early. Some people be there like hours early. Class after Maghrib, some people show up at Asr and stay. They show up at Asr, they pray Asr, and they just stay there. And then you got other people, the class after Maghrib, they come at the Aqama of Maghrib. So guess where they're going to be at? Oh, in the back. And that's what, right? So either way, you go to a sitting, you sit where it's, does that make sense? Where it's reached? I don't know. I don't really know how to translate that. Keep it in unison. If the people filled up 3 rows, you in the 4th row. That's where you reach. That's your spot. That's what you got, right? That's what you earned. The time you got there that's the spot you earned, right? Tayyib. And of course, it's exceptions. Tayyib. So I want to use this example to make it clear, because the way we sitting now doesn't apply. The way we sitting right now, this doesn't apply here. Why? Because there's plenty of space. Imagine if everybody was lined up on the 1st row, like tight. A person comes in late. He or she doesn't have a choice. You're supposed to sit right there where the spot that's open for you back there. You can't come and start knocking people over. You know how we do. We come late, then we want to tap everybody in the row to move over, distract the whole joint because I'm late. Everybody else been here early on. I'm sorry, because you made a face. This don't have nothing to do with the brothers that just came, man. I'm not talking about nobody that came in late now. I'm saying, in general, if we'll come somewhere late and we'll tap everybody in the line to move somebody over to make a space for myself. Everybody with me? Y'all seen that before? So we're willing to, yeah, we'll distract somebody else who was there on time, reading, worshiping, making the dhikr with that focus. We'll distract them based on my lateness, right? When, from adab is, you sit where the spot is open for you when you get there. Tayyib. He says after that, that was number 2, that you sit where, let's say, not what's available, in unison, let's say. Tayyib. He says again, if the sitting is like we're sitting now, it doesn't apply. So if somebody came in right now, because Abdulaziz is sitting right there, nobody has to sit in back of Abdulaziz. All the space up here. This sitting doesn't apply when it's separate, when everybody's spread out like this. Tayyib. He says, أما المجلس الذي يصطف ويصطف فيه أهله. طيب خلاص, that's the same. طيب, number 3. He says, ولا تجلس بين الشمس والظل. Don't sit halfway in the sun and halfway in the shade. Don't sit halfway in the sun and halfway in the shade. You know, sometimes the sun is coming through the window, right? And it's possible that you sit and half of your body is in the sun and half of your body is in the shade. Anybody ever do that? We're not talking about you were sitting there in the sun, and as time that you were sitting there, the sun is setting, and then next thing you look up, we're not talking about that. Don't go sit intentionally in the middle of the sun, or I'm sorry, where if the sun is coming through the window, you don't go sit in the middle of the sun in the shade. Why? Does anybody know? All you gotta do is Google hadith on sitting in the sun and shade and see what comes up. Nah, it's gonna come up. You got it?
Actually, I heard about this. I never went to the conclusions or reason why you should. Was it in the prophetic medicine?
Pull it up, Sheikh. I'm not, this is information that's available. I don't want y'all to think I don't have all the information. He worded it like this because it's not hard to find. Inshallah.
He's sitting in the
Yeah. And see what you find. You got something? Huh? What does it say? Is that what it was? That read the whole hadith? If one of you was sitting, hold on, let me see. And man, I'm sorry, y'all, I can't read off the screen like this. Wait, so now it's like this. What is that? You got it? Somebody put something. Tayyib. Where's the hadith at? Abu Huraira reported. Read it again, I'm sorry, so I can repeat after you. The Prophet ﷺ, he prohibited that one sit between the sunlight and the shade. And he said to sit like that is the sitting of the shaitan. All right? He didn't bring the hadith and all. He just said don't sit in the sun and the shade based on that hadith. Everybody see how it goes? So when you read books like that and it's kind of like it's laid out like a list almost, it doesn't mean that there's no proof for it. It means that the book was written like that intentionally based on other dalil that's just not mentioned for the sake of keeping the book short, concise, to the point. The dalil is probably famous and already known for the crowd that they're speaking to, yes.
Is this hadith sahih or da'if?
Where's the hadith?
It's Abu Dawud, Imam Abu Dawud, Ahmed, and then you have Sahih Bukhari and Muslim.
No, I got Muslim Ahmad.
Musnad of Ahmed?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are you saying? If it's a Musnad of Ahmed, what do you mean? Is it sahih or weak?
No, I'm asking.
Yeah.
I don't know, because actually in the internet,
Yeah.
there are a lot of things. So you have to be careful.
That's not hard to find out either. I'm gonna give y'all this just to be clear. If it's in, all you have to do is write this. The same hadith. Is this hadith weak? In Google, next to the same thing you type. And I'm doing this intentionally. Some of this information you're able to get to. But you might come to a point and you find a hadith where it says, Sheikh Al-Albani said this hadith is authentic. Right? You ever read that? What's the benefit of putting that there?
No, that's been checked.
Know that it's been checked. Okay.
But I don't
Hold on.
I don't trust, like, when some people say that, I don't just trust them. I need to see that multiple times before I say that his word is word.
Tayyib. It says the hadith, for example, it says this hadith can be found in the Sunan of Abu Dawud, right? One of the 6 books of hadith, right? Then next to it, it might say that declared authentic by Al-Albani, rahimahullah. What's the benefit of putting that behind it? Declared authentic by Al-Albani.
I guess you can do Alabama to see how, I guess, he is, or
The fact that we have to say that Sheikh Al-Albani, rahimahullah, said that it's authentic, some may say that the hadith is weak. Some may believe that the hadith, some of the scholars of Islam will hold the hadith to be weak. Sheikh Al-Albani says it's authentic. Just like some scholars say they differ on things, they might differ on if a hadith is authentic or not. Okay? The fact that Imam Abu Dawud, rahimahullah, he's a scholar of hadith. According to his checking, the hadith is worthy of using. Another scholar might come and say, no, that hadith is not authentic. And they might differ on it. So when you see that behind it, that's going to tell you, okay, some of the scholars might actually say that this hadith is not authentic. And it's not for us, we don't have to go back and forth like that every hadith we come to, but that's just a small benefit.
How do people decide what's authentic and what's not?
What people?
Whoever, if somebody was coming and say that's not authentic.
Who's the somebody saying it? Oh, if it's a scholar, that's a scholarly research to be able to say something is authentic or weak. I thought you were talking about us.
No.
We just, Bukhari is authentic, Muslims authentic, we just follow. In order for me, a person, to be able to come out of their mouth and say, I've checked this hadith and I've come up to the conclusion that this hadith is not authentic. Like a person like Sheikh Al-Albani, that's a muhaddith. That's a scholar of hadith, science. That's not no regular, everybody doesn't do that.
like a doctor.
Yes, like a doctor.
Not gonna go to a
Yeah.
doctor because they say you know how to do a heart.
Yeah, and that's the difference between, like, when you go to, for example, when you go to study in Mecca or Medina, Al-Qura or University of Medina. When you go to college, what college you going to? Once you finish the language program, you choose a college. What you want to study? Well, I'm going to study a hadith. Okay. In general, if that's what you're going to study, another person might say, well, I'm going to go study Sharia, which is Islamic law. Okay, those two curriculums are not the same. And at the end, they're not going to be the same. They're not going to have the same skill set. The person who's going to study hadith, they're going to teach you how to check the hadith, what to look for to find out. They're going to teach you how to do that, how to become a Sheikh al-Albani. You got to go through training to do that. Whereas though if you go to Sharia, that's not part of your curriculum. You might take a couple classes, but they're not training you to do that. They might be training you to be a judge, an Islamic judge in a court system. So it depends on what you want to study. So it takes study, it takes training, to say the least. Tayyib. That was number 3. Don't sit in the shade, half in the shade and half in the sun. Fadl.
Why, if you're sitting under a tree,
Say it again.
if you're sitting under a tree,
Sitting anywhere.
anyway,
Anywhere you sit. Don't intentionally sit in half your body in the shade and half your body in the sun.
sometimes it happens that even if I want to sit in the shade, like 10% of the sunlight comes. Is that okay?
You should feel every time, all the time. You feel a lot of the best of your ability. You trying to sit all the way in the shade. I'm just saying.
Sometimes
And sometimes you know how you like that. I don't want to sit in the shade, so you move all the way over, and there's nowhere else to go, but there's still a little sun on you. What you gonna do? Either you stand up and move, or you feel a lot of the best of your ability. If there's nowhere else to sit, the point being, he's not trying to intentionally do what the Prophet ﷺ described as being the sitting of the shaitan. We don't want to intentionally do that. طيب, he says, وَلَا تُفَرِّقْ بَيْنَ اثْنَيْنِ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِهِمَا. Do not come to a sitting, a gathering, and two people sitting next to each other. You don't come to the gathering, and then you split the two people. You come sit in the middle of them. Right? Sometimes we think, I'm just saying, y'all, we go somewhere late, and we think we have the, like you owe me that you got to move. Like, you got to move. And if you don't move, I'm going to make you move. I'll tap you. I'll interrupt you. I'll stop you from reading. Or I'll just take a Brody on the spot and, you know, you're going to move over. We just going to be tight and it might turn into something else, right? Which is this is not from edib. You're supposed to take the spot that's available to you, right? You don't split two people unless, what? When you think if two people sit next to each other, right, and you trying to get in between them, when do you think it would be okay for you to get in between them? There's no space.
Dispute.
Huh?
You got a little dispute.
No, they chilling.
Unless they okay with you sitting there.
They okay. They give you the go ahead. Oh, they might, oh, come on, sit down. They might give you see, yo, can I get right here? You ask permission. It says except with their permission. That means you asked them. You didn't just take the Brody and make a move. They sitting there, they paying attention, they doing whatever they doing. You don't just come there and start tapping people to move out your way. You're supposed to go there and maybe you tap one of the brothers, or if you tap them, is it okay if I get here? You're supposed to ask their permission. That's from edib. Even though doing that is also could be a distraction also. The fact that you even coming late and have to ask the question, but even if you have to do that, that's better than just taking it. As they're sitting there, they have the right, yes. You cool? You sure? Tayyib. Everybody clear? So he said that you don't split two people except that if you ask their permission. He said, بِأَنْ يَسْتَأْذِنَ بِقُعُودِكَ بَيْنَهُمَا. That you seek their permission. You ask them, is it okay for me to sit here? If there's a space between them, it's possible that what? Say you get there, right? Everybody's lined up and there's one space there. You know what we think, mashallah, man, subhanAllah, I got here late. Allah saved me a spot. You know how we do. We be like, yo, subhanAllah, man, I got there late, but Allah saved me a spot, right? And we walk up late, all these people in here. Nobody wanted that seat up front, and Allah just saved you a spot, mashallah. But what's really going on? Somebody sitting there, he went to make wudu, she went to make wudu, You come now, they come back, you jumped in the spot. And that's another benefit of saying what? Asking permission before you just plop down between two people. Is it cool if I say it? They might say, no, the brother went in the bathroom. He coming right back. Right? All of this is from edib, having the best manners. So Islam doesn't leave us just to figure stuff out. That's from putting ourselves in the best situation possible every time. Right? I don't know why we think like somebody owes us a spot. Like you got there late, now you owe me, you gotta move. And if you don't move, we suck our teeth and just be like, Lord. So when I go down in the sajda, he's gonna have to move anyway. Take a Brody, right? That's not from edib. Tayyib, a person gonna say, what am I supposed to do in Jummah if you're not supposed to talk? What you supposed to do? Find your spot in unison. Find a spot that's already open. You don't have to talk. As far as trying to take people's spots and move up and you come in late and you looking around everybody trying to step over people, now you enter into another one that's not from good edib, which is another situation as far as when you get to Jummah late. Tayyib. Further.
Suppose in the back, I see one spot fully available between the two rows. Am I allowed to bypass that person, or I still have to wait?
If you're in the back end,
And I see a lot of people here. I see one spot here, two spots.
you mean it's filled up,
Yeah.
but it's two spots back there.
So am I allowed to bypass the other people?
Yeah, good. You know how we sitting sometimes, right? And people just not moving up. That's different. We're not talking about people just won't move up and fill in the spaces. You can move up and fill in the space. Apparently they didn't want that spot that was up there, right? We're talking about people that's already filled. It looks like it's filled up. You see one spot. Now you're gonna climb over those 6 rows, tap everybody to get by for you to get that one space that you're not even sure if somebody's sitting there or not. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about an issue where sometimes, like in Jummah, people just don't move up. So it's plenty of space. Some people choose to sit where they choose to sit, which is fine. But we're talking about if the issue is it's already filled up, that how we supposed to move, then you're supposed to take the spot that's available without distracting the other people. Tayyib, he says, number 5, وَلَا تَقُمْ أَحَدٍ مِنْ مَجْلِسِهِ, that you do not make somebody get up so that you can sit there. You don't make somebody get up so that you can sit there, right? Which sometimes we think we own spots in masjids and stuff like that, because you usually do sit there. But you running late today, and somebody got your spot. So now when you come in, like, what you going? You gotta move over. Like you're gonna make somebody move. You don't have the authority. We don't have the authority to do that. To make somebody get up out of a place that they're sitting in so that I can sit there. Everybody clear? Are there any exceptions for that? Yes. If it's an older person.
I see some little guy up front. You get up, you let the older guys sit instead of like having to go all the way back.
I'm not clear what you mean.
Like say somebody 90-year-old grandfather come in and just pack all the back in. Would it be okay if I let him have my spot?
No doubt, it's okay. But that's me giving up my spot. We talking about somebody coming and demanding me to give them my spot. Me giving up my spot is one thing. I might be sitting here in the front, somebody old come in, I jump up and say, take my spot. That's me giving my spot up. That's not the issue. Why? Because that spot is that's my haq. I got there early, I'm sitting there. We talking about now, somebody come in, they be like, you've been here since like 11. They come in with they pop and they like, yo, you gotta look out. How you going, we don't have the authority to move somebody out their space.
Yeah. Same question. That person is much elder. He's like my grandfather. So can he say to me that please move?
Nah. Age doesn't give you the authority to take somebody's place.
Never.
Not that I know of, no. It's better for you, young man. You see a 90-year-old brother or sister coming. You saw them come in. You know they're going to have trouble standing. It's better you jump up and give them your spot. Don't put them in a position where they're going to go against the adab of a Muslim and now they got to look around. That means they want somebody to get up. Somebody should jump up and offer the spot rather than make them demand a spot.
Same ruling applies with the public transportation. Like if I see like that, I should just get up and like, tell that.
Jade, that's old school. If you on a bus or you on a train, all right, somebody old get on. We sit like now, we sit just like that. They got to go, I ain't. You know what I'm saying? They could just walk by us now. We ain't like, back in the day, man, you get up. Your parents will make you get up. Or whoever, stand up. You got to stand up, let them sit down. Right? Is that right or wrong? Heck, I just thought about that. Allah. But it's better, y'all. It's better and safer that if we're in that situation that we offer the spot to the person that look like they might need it, even if they're not old. They might be handicapped. Person might have a back part, something. They look like they need help. It's better that we offer them that than for them to try to like be forced to make somebody move. It's better that we offer. And Allah knows best. Allah alam. So he says, number 5 is that you don't force somebody to move out of the space so that you can sit in that space. He says, except in the situation where except in the situation where, I'm gonna use this so that it's clear. A situation like this table here. This table is used for a specific purpose. It could be used for other things too. But you come in here on Thursday, the imams get ready to get a I want to be a Muslim class. You was here an hour earlier, you eating the cheesesteak. Here, it's a table. You eating the cheesesteak, you eating the pizza, you reading, whatever, you chilling, right? He's ready to come give his class on Thursday. Does he have the authority to ask you to move? This is an exception, right? Why? Because normally this has there's a reason and a place that this is used for. So in situations like that, he says the exceptions of iftah or iqra' or teaching or things like that, with a person who is sitting at that place, that's their spot basically for that use. That's a different situation. But as far as just coming in a general sitting like this and start telling people like, yo, I usually sit under the air because, you know what I mean, I get hot quick. So that's my spot. So you come and put your bag down and kind of like Brody, as we say. You just Brody. You're going to make them move. That's not from good adab. Tayyib. Number 6 is based on Surah Al-Mujadala, verse number 11. I think that's number... Mujadala is number, I forgot what number that is. But y'all might want to pull a verse up. Surah Al-Mujadala, verse number 11. And this is kind of like the opposite of what we were just talking about. He says, وَافْسَحْ لِمَنْ دَخَلْ. When you're already there and people come in, that you do what? Make space. We initiate making space. Don't wait for somebody to try to point you out. Make space. Sometimes, I don't know why. Sometimes on Juma, like, I don't know why people just don't want to move. Like, there's no room for the other brothers and sisters to get in. Brothers, can you move up? They be like they don't want to move. Now, if you don't want to move, don't be mad when somebody comes and moves in front of you. You know what I'm saying? 58, sort of 58, verse number 11. To do what? Make space. When people come in, that you automatically make space. This way they don't have to ask. They don't have to tap you. They don't have to ask anybody's permission. They don't have to tell somebody to move. That you already make space. It says, al-ifsahu, to make space. Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, idha qila lakum tafassahu fil majalisi fafsahu yafsahillahu lakum. O you who believe, if it is said to you, make space when you in your gatherings, make space, right? And what does it say at the end of the verse? Allah will make space for you. Allah will make space for you. Tayyib. What does that mean, Allah will make space for you? Huh? In paradise? One of the meanings he says here is that, he says there's 2 meanings, he says, there's 2 meanings. When people come in, make space, and Allah's gonna make space for you. Meaning, Allah, if you make space, Allah's gonna make sure that it's comfortable for everybody. If you make space for the brothers and sisters that got there late, not that I'm gonna penalize you. I'm gonna make you feel the heat for being late, so I'm not moving. So make you uncomfortable. I'm comfortable, you're uncomfortable. I'm gonna make sure you're uncomfortable because you got no. You come in, somebody comes in, make space. And Allah's going to make space. Allah's going to make sure that everybody's comfortable based on us taking the initiative to make our brothers and sisters comfortable, even though they came late. He said that's one meaning. He says the other meaning is that Allah will make the sitting a sitting that is comfortable, not physically. We still might be tight, but as we say, the vibe is a comfortable vibe based on us doing what? When you make space for your brother, your sister, what are you really doing? You thinking of them, and you really looking out. You helping your brother, your sister, so that they can have a spot, sit, benefit from the same thing you benefiting from. So he says if we do that, the law's going to make sure that the vibe, if we could use that word, is a vibe that is comfortable for everybody. Tayyib. He says number 7. He says when you go to those gatherings, to mention Allah, make dhikr of Allah. Make sure you mention Allah's name. Right? Dhikr Allah shar'an. It doesn't necessarily mean that the gathering is a religious gathering. It could be a barbecue. I ain't trying to be funny, y'all. Is a barbecue a religious gathering? It could be. It could be. Tell you. We're not talking, we just saying. All right. We just saying, it might be a, you know what I'm saying? It might be the Eid. That's what I'm saying. It might be the Eid. All right? Alhamdulillah. It could be Aqiqah. It could be religious. But let's just say it's not. Let's just say somebody cooking out, you stop. You slide through, grab a plate. All right, you slide through, grab a plate. You sit down for a minute. Right? Even in those sins, you should always mention Allah. You should always make dhikr of Allah. Right? It doesn't mean you have to go there and the whole time you're there, you don't talk to anybody. You just sit there and make dhikr for 40 minutes. It doesn't mean that. But at some point in the conversation while you're there, we should mention Allah's name. Right? Even if it's just, alhamdulillah. For what? Alhamdulillah for what? It's food there. Alhamdulillah. MashaAllah for inviting me. Jazakallah khair for inviting me. Make dua for the host. It's all different type of ways to make dhikr when you go to a gathering. Even if the gathering is not a class, a khutbah, any gathering we go to, it's possible to mention Allah's name. Right? He says, and he mentions why based on a hadith that's coming, but he says many of the gatherings, he says لأن الغالب, what's normal in gatherings is that a lot of gatherings people make a lot of mistakes in what they say, slips of the tongue, talking about stuff even though we didn't go there to do anything like that. Well, we human, we might slip up, and even if we don't slip up, he says, even if you don't slip up, to make dhikr, mention Allah's name at the gathering. In the last one he says aqalluhu, the least amount of dhikr to be made at a gathering, he says, is to make the dua which is called kafaratuhu, which is the kafaratul majlis. And that's like kafaratul majlis is like at the end, not just a class you close out with a dua, but the kafaratul majlis is said at the end of a sitting, which is basically we seek forgiveness for any mistakes we made in that gathering. It doesn't mean that the barbecue was something haram going on. It doesn't mean that. But when I got there, we was talking, we was busting it. I might have said something out of line. You might have said something out of line. It's possible. We started off talking about one thing, it led to something else, and we said something that was out of order. It's possible. And during that conversation we were talking, we didn't mention Allah's name either. Right? So he says the least you should do is before you leave, you make what's called kafaratul majlis, which is the statement that he made at the end, Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk, which is Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. All glory and praise is for Allah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, I bear witness that none has the right to be worshipped except for Allah, except for you, Allah. I seek your forgiveness and I seek your and I repent to you. Right? That at least you say that. If you didn't make any dhikr throughout the whole conversation about whatever, the finals and the NBA is rigged and all the stuff we talking about, right? I ain't saying it was haram, but you know, sometimes we start getting into talks and we might say something out of line. At the least, we make the kafara is like the expiation, if you could say, a way to seek Allah's forgiveness for any mistakes you might have made in that conversation. So he says, even if you didn't make dhikr, for example, I didn't praise Allah for the food, right, at the barbecue. Alhamdulillah, it's many ways I could have made dhikr. I didn't do this, I didn't do that. At the least, I should make the kafaratul majlis. I should make that dua at the end to make sure that I have at least seek the Lord, I sought Allah's forgiveness for any mistakes I might have said in that gathering. And that is number 8. And he says, lastly, some people think that you should only make that dua at the end if you made a mistake. If something crazy was said, you definitely got to say it. But you jump up. No, we wasn't talking about nothing crazy. He said you should still make it at the end of the majlis. It's not only making that dua at the end is not only for mistakes that you know were made. But if there's no dhikr made, at the least you want to make dhikr before you leave a sitting. And if the only dhikr that you made was that, then that's the least you could do. Allahu A'lam. We can stop there unless there's any questions. That's number 8. It's 2 more. And next week, Wednesday is their Eid, so it's no class Wednesday. So the following Wednesday, what's the day? Oh, the day's Sunday. I'm tripping. My bad. Yeah, there's a class Sunday, but we maybe we might finish next week because we only have 9 and 10 left, but they kind of long, so we won't finish next week. So there's no class on 40 Hadith Wednesday because it's their Eid. And if it rains, we're going to pray here. As of now, if it rains, we're going to pray indoor. We'll just pray here. And if anything else comes up as far as location, a change of location, inshallah, we'll update everybody. We'll stop there, inshallah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Is that there?